Good day. Today we will be looking at June 2023, paper 2, question 4. Okay, so the very first question that we have here, I'm going to display it now. It says, in the equation, in the diagram, the equation of the circle centered at n is x squared plus y squared plus 24x minus 10y plus 153 is equal to 0. They give us the coordinates of n. The equation of the circle centered at M is x plus 6 squared plus y plus 3 squared is equal to 25. PS and PR are tangents to the circle centered at M are tangents to the circle that is centered at M at S and R respectively. PR is parallel to the x-axis, K is negative 17, negative 5 is a point on PS, and the straight line joining N and M cuts the smaller circle at T and the larger circle at S. Okay, so a lot of information was given there. Let's start by analyzing what we get given. Okay, so the first thing is we have coordinates of N. We also know the equation of N. We also get given the equation of the circle M, which is going to help us give us the coordinates of M. PS and PR are tangents to the circle that come from this common point here. And what do we know about this is that the rule says tangents from the same point are equal. So those two are equal. The next thing they tell us is that PR is parallel to the x-axis. Let's use a different color. So PR is parallel to the x-axis. Okay, and I also just want to extend this line across so we know that it's also cutting there at the y-axis. Okay, the first one says write down the coordinates of M. Okay, that's our very first question. Okay, it says write down the coordinates of M. So this is 4.1 and we get given the equation of M at the circle M, which is x plus, give me a second to readjust, x plus 6 squared plus y plus 3 squared is equal to 25. So what we know from here is that this is going to be negative. In the equation is x minus a squared plus y minus b squared is equal to r squared. So therefore my value is going to be negative 6 for my x value and negative 3 for my y value. So M coordinates are negative 6, negative 3. Okay, so that was a fairly easy question. The next question said, determine the length of the radius of the smaller circle, which is the one with N. So here we get given this long equation at the top there, which is the equation for N. So we're going to write that down. 4.2, this is 4.2. Okay, so that long equation is what we are writing down here. So it's x squared plus y squared plus 24 x minus 10y plus 153 is equal to 0. And we want to take this and get it into the standard form of what we have here. So first thing I'm going to group together is my x values. Plus y squared minus 10y. I'm going to take this constant to the other side. It's equal to negative 153. So we want to create this format here. So what we need to do is we need to create a trinomial form. So how do we create a trinomial? So we've got 24x. What is half of 24x? Is going to be positive 12 squared. That's going to create me the trinomial of x plus 12 squared. Here we want to create a trinomial using this. So half of 10 is 5 squared. So I'm going to minus, because it's negative 10, negative 5 squared. So it's going to be plus y minus 5 squared. Positive. Okay. Then we are going to do the same thing on the other side, because what you do on one side, you have to do to the other side as well. So it's going to be plus 12 squared plus 5 squared. We can simplify here, so it's going to be negative 153 plus 144 is 12 squared plus 25. Okay, now you can see we are starting to create that base formula. So we're going to have x plus 12 squared, because technically what we want is r. The question is asking us to calculate the length of the radius. So we want r, so we need this format. Minus 5 squared is equal to, here you would use your calculator. So negative 153 plus 144 plus 25 is going to give me 16. And in our formula, we know that this is r squared. So r squared is equal to 16. We're going to root it. So r is therefore equal to 4 units. Okay, let's look at our next question. The next question wants us to determine the length of TS. Okay, so there's a lot going on here now. They want us to find this length TS. Okay, let's divide it into points. So we've got NT, we've got SM. They want us to find TS. How are we going to do that? Okay, so firstly we have the coordinates of M, which we got to be negative 6, negative 3. Okay, we know N, so we can calculate NM using distance formula. We also know SM because they give us the formula for the circle centered at M. Here it is here. Okay, x plus 6 plus squared plus y plus 3 squared is equal to 25. And we know that that is r squared. So technically we know the radius of the circle at SM. And the last thing that we would need is NT, because what we want to do is we want to say NM is equal to NT plus TS plus SM. So we know NM, we know SM. How would we find NT? NT is also the radius there, and we just calculated the radius in our previous question, which we got to be 4 units. And therefore we could calculate TS. So the only thing technically that we don't have right now is NM. So let's go through this once more. Okay. 4.2.2. We've got this long line. Let's draw it out here. Here's N, which is the center of the small circle. Here's M, which is the center of a bigger circle. Okay? This, at the point where it ends, is T, and this is S. We want this TS. We know the coordinates of N because it gets given. We calculated the coordinates of M. We also know SM, which is the radius, from the equation of the circle, which gets given to us. It's 25. Okay. So SM, the radius squared is 25. So the radius is 5. Okay. So that's 5. And NT, which is right here, we calculated in the previous question using the long formula, which is the center. And we got that to be 4 units, which makes it fairly easy. So now what we have is NM is equal to NT plus TS plus SM. We are looking for TS. We still need to find NM. So let's find NM. So NM is equal to root of my y value here is, my x value here is negative 12 minus 6 squared plus 5 minus 3 squared. This is using distance formula. So negative 12 plus 6 is, so you could go straight into your calculator, but I'm going to solve it. So negative 12 plus 6 is negative 6 squared plus 5 plus 3 is 8 squared. So I've got 36 plus 64, which is equal to 100. Root of 100, 10 units. Now we know NM. Let's do it here so we don't lose the information that we have. So NM is equal to NT plus TS plus SM. So let's change our formulas so that we have TS as a subject. It's going to be NM minus NT minus SM. We got NM to be 10. NT is 4. Here it is. We got the NT to be 4. And SM from the formula is minus 5. So 10 minus 4 is 6. 6 minus 5 is 1 unit. Alright, let's move on to the next question. Okay, the next question, we calculated the length of TS. Now we're moving on to 4.3. 4.3 wants us to determine the equation of the tangent PR. Okay, so here's PR. What's the first thing you notice about the tangent PR is that it is a horizontal line, okay? And what do we know about horizontal lines? Any line that passes straight through the y-axis, its equation is y is equal to something, okay? So that's why I drew it across earlier, because it always helps to visualize it on an axis. So we know that PR is going to be y is equal to negative some sort of number because it's sitting on the negative part of that axis. And how are we going to determine what that number is? So let's look. So let's add in everything that we have. So SM we know is 5 units. We know that NT is 4 units. And we also calculated TS to be 1, which adds up to the total of 10. So if we were to draw a line coming down from M and R, because we're working now with R, we know that this is 5 units as well, because it's also the radius. And what do we know when we're working in a vertical point? We can subtract or add. So here we've got -3 as the y point for M. -3 minus 5. -3 minus 5 will give me -8. Because I'm subtracting 5, I'm going down 5 from -3, and that's going to give me -8. And that is how we find the y value of r. So let's write down our answer. This is 4.3.1, which asks us to calculate the equation of PR, and we got it to be y is equal to -8. Okay, the next question says, determine the equation of the tangent PS in the form of y is equal to mx plus c. Okay, so let's take a look at PS. Here's PS. Now, we don't have much information about PS besides a single point, which is K. Okay, I'm going to remove the other information. Okay, everything else is relevant. Okay, so we know this point K is on PS, but we also know that here, from the radius to the tangent, we have a 90 degree, which is going to help us with the gradient, definitely, because we know gradients that are perpendicular equal to -1. So we can calculate the gradient from NM because we get given both those points, and that will help us find the gradient for PS, and we have a point that we can substitute. So we already know how we're going to do that equation. When you have to calculate any sort of equation, it's fairly easy if you remember these two key points, two things that you are required to know, just the gradient and just C. Y is equal to mx plus c. Just two things that you need to find, gradient and the c value. Okay, so let's work with what we get given. So we first want to calculate the gradient of NM. So we know that N, let's just write them out here so I don't get confused. N is -12 and 5. And M is -6 and -3. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So y2, let's work with 5 minus 3 over -12 minus 6. 5 plus 3 is 8 over -12 plus 6 is -6, which is going to give me -4 over 3. So we said the gradient of NM times the gradient of PS is equal to -1. So -4 over 3 times gradient of PS is equal to -1. So gradient of PS is therefore going to be equal to 3 over 4. Now that we have the gradient, we can substitute. Y is equal to 3 over 4x plus c, and we're substituting k, which is -17, -5. So -5 is equal to 3 over 4, -17 plus c. C is therefore equal to 31 over 4, which you can calculate with a calculator, but for the interest of time, we're going to just use our calculators. 3 over 4x plus 31 over 4. That is how we calculate the formula for PS. Okay, let's look at the next question that we have here. The next question says, quadrilateral PSMR is drawn. Calculate the perimeter. Okay, so let's take a look here. PSMR. So we've already drawn it. PSMR. But let's highlight it in another color so we can see it accurately. PSMR. So this is a quadrilateral. They want us to calculate perimeter. So what we can see already is that SM and MR is the same. It's 5 and 5. We also know that PS and PR are equal because they're tangents from the same point. So the only thing that we need to calculate is the coordinates of one of them. So what do we know? We know R. R is going to be -6, -8. P is going, we don't know its x value, but we do know it's also -8. But we just calculated the equation for PS. So we can find the x value of P, and then we can calculate the length of PR, which is the only length we do not still have. Okay. So this is 4.4.1. And the equation that we calculated in the previous one is y is equal to 3/4x plus 31/4. And we are substituting y to be -8. So -8 is equal to 3/4x plus 31/4. -8 minus 31/4 is equal to 3/4x. Let's use our calculator. -8 minus 31/4. -63/4 is equal to 3/4x. How am I going to get rid? I'm going to multiply by 4/3. I'm going to multiply by 4/3. Multiply by 4/3. That's going to give me -21. X is equal to -21. So now that we know that this P is -21 and -8, R is -6, -8, we can calculate the distance of PR. So -21 minus -6 plus squared plus -8 minus -8 squared. Because we don't have y values, it's just the x values that we are using. So we didn't actually have to do that. We just actually have to add these two up. So -21 minus -6, because we want to calculate the distance of our x points, so -21 plus 6, it's equal to -15. But we don't have negative values for units, so it's 15 units for PR. And PR is equal to PS. So if you take a look, PR is equal to PS. They're equal to 15. And SM is equal to MR, which is equal to 5. So my perimeter is going to be equal to 215 plus 2 times 5, which is 30, plus 10 is equal to 40 units. Okay, so I hope you understand how we got that. SM and MR was okay. We just had to find this value first for P before we could calculate the length of PR. Last question that we have in this paper. Ratio of, it's asking us to calculate the ratio of area of triangle NPS over area of quad PSMR. So let's go down and let's see what we can do. So NPS, where's NPS? Here is it, NPS. Area of NPS. So So that's the triangle that they're talking about. And how do we find the area of a triangle? It's half of my base, which is NS, which we know, times my height, which is SP, which we also know. Area of my quadrilateral is going to be, we're going to divide it into two triangles. I'm going to divide it into SPM and M, because here we've got a 90 degree and here we've also got a 90 degree. So I'm going to say half of SP, which is my base, times MS times by, or added to, because we're adding those two triangles to give me the full area, half of MR times by PR. So we've got to use what we have here, the same values here. So NS was 4 units. No, NS was NT plus TS. So it's 4 plus 1, which was 5. SP is what we just calculated just now, which is 15. All over half. SP is 15. MS is 5 plus half of MR is also 5, and PR was the same, 15. So here we can completely cross this out. And thus, so we just get left with a half. Because at the bottom here, another thing that you could have done is you could have said 2 of half, 5, and 15, which is why we get left with a half. And that is the end of this paper. If we look at mark allocations quickly, first question was 2 marks just for your coordinates. Second question was 2 marks as well, even though we did quite a bit for knowing that you had to add those values that you did on the left, the right as well, and then your answer, 2 marks. The next question, where we calculated the length here, was actually 4 marks. First one was substituting into distance formula. The second one was for getting 10 units. The third one was for knowing the values of SM, and then the last one was for your answer, 4 marks. The next question, where we found y to be -8, was just 2 marks. The question where we calculated the equation was 5 marks. That's a lot of marks for a very simple question. The first mark was for substitution. The next mark was for the gradient you got here. The next mark was for finding the other gradient. Next, you had to substitute the gradient into this value and to find C. And the last mark was for your equation. 5 marks for a very simple question. The next one was where we had to calculate the perimeter. This was also 5 marks. The first mark was for you substituting 8 into this equation, for finding -21, for knowing that they were equal, and then the last one was for your answer, 5 marks. And the last one was 2 marks. Even if you didn't get this question, it was okay. Substitution was 1 and the answer was another. Okay, thank you so much. We will look at another question in another video.